that money, dummy, do it for the love. And I'm hungry, did I mention money? Cop cars, now I need that airplane money. Hardly laugh in the ghetto, being broke ain't funny. We built for this homie, yeah, we run the streets. You see me everywhere, Jewed up, tucking the heat. I rap for the hustlers, put my life on this beat. We all we got.
The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is Paulie Malignaggi being fired from Showtime. Paulie Malignaggi was fired from Showtime for these comments that he made. I'll play it.
A lot of people were outraged and used the argument if a white fighter had said that about a black fighter, that I'll never lose to a black boy, that it'd be, you know, we'd be just outright calling them racist, and the reaction would be much bigger.
Of course. Well, that's why I kind of try not to join into the race conversations, is because this is one of the exact examples of why I don't believe there is racial oppression in 2020 in this century. I believe there has been, sure, but I don't believe there's any racial oppression today. I believe it's all made up, and I believe it's exaggerated. And this is exactly one of the reasons why. The fact that a black fighter can say that and not pay any price financially, but if a white fighter said that about a black fighter or any black fighters at all, he'd probably lose his TV contract, and probably TV networks wouldn't touch him. You know, so I won't tell you that it's a double standard, but I'll tell you that it's probably. But I'll tell you that it does prove that the whole hypothesis of racial oppression is way above and exaggerated in this century. You know, I don't think this century has given us anything aside from what you want to nitpick individual situations. You might want to nitpick, you know.
All right, so G, what are your thoughts on Paulie Malignaggi being fired for those comments, or any other thoughts?
All right, I'll say this. One, I do not believe Paulie should have been fired, right? I do understand that Paulie did not apologize. However, I'll say this. My stance is I actually don't agree with Paulie's statement about racial oppression. However, I can see where he's coming from and that being his opinion. You know what I mean? And so two people could look at two different things. I mean, two people could look at the same thing and at times come up with different conclusions, right? We do this on this show all the time. And so when you're talking about like systemic oppression and things of that nature, you know, if you live a particular life, you may be ignorant to certain things, right? And some people call that privilege, right? But, you know, like, let's say I'm a man, right? I may not be aware of the day-to-day things that women go through, like a woman walking to the train station, or a woman, you know, having to deal with a male boss that's, you know, flirting with her, you know, at work and things of that nature. I may not see that on a regular basis. So that's not in my paradigm. So I could be like, oh, sexism doesn't exist. I mean, because I'm saying it from a state of ignorance, right? But should I be fired for that opinion? I don't think so. Now, I think it should have been an opportunity to educate Paulie on, you know, racial oppression or systemic racism and things of that nature. But another reason why I don't believe Paulie should get fired is because Devin Haney, you know, made that statement about, you know, not losing to a white boy, right? Now, I believe it was towards Lomachenko. He at least, I give him that. He apologized, right? And I think he realized that, whoa, like, that's not what I meant. You know, like, people in the hood talk like that, right? And so, but when you're now a known commodity, you can't talk the way that you're talking like you would at a barbershop or in the locker room. You get what I'm saying? So the fact that Devin Haney said what he said, he realized, oh, snap, that's not what I meant. I'm so sorry, this and the third, and at least apologize, right? But I don't believe that he should have got punished either, you know? I think with those type of situations, it's more about having conversations to educate both parties. Paulie, when he made that mistake, you know, I feel like, and it was weird because, like, what really bothered me about that interview was when he said superior, like, races and stuff in regards to boxing. He was like, yo, at one time it was the Jews, one time it was the Italians, one time it was the Irish, now it's the blacks, now it's the Ukrainians, right? like, I see what he was saying, but the choice of words implied, like, you know, one group is superior to other groups. And I kind of feel like in 2020, that's politically incorrect, right? And so, but I don't believe Paulie meant it in like a racist way, you know? And from my knowledge, Paulie's not even Ukrainian, right? So it wasn't coming from like some xenophobic point of view. I think he was just talking like carelessly because again, you know, I don't know if Paulie went to college. I don't know if he has, you know, a political science background, sociology background, or even like has any background in some form of like social justice or social activism or anything. All I know is that Paulie is a boxer that's now a boxing analyst. So his world is boxing, you know? And so when a celebrity or a boxing analyst steps outside of their world, I don't think we should just now out of nowhere, you know, cancel them because they don't know any better. I think it's a moment of education. Like, all right, well, Paulie, let's have this discussion. And then if Paulie is like, nah, I'm not trying to have that discussion, then I think like Showtime, hey, you know what? If you feel like he's not a proper representation of your network, then get rid of him. But at least give the man the opportunity to learn first. And that's why I'm just like, with cancel culture, I feel like we're just too quick to shut a person down, and we're not quick enough to say, hey, let me educate you on what you said. Because it's not like Paulie said like the N-word, right? Or Paulie, like, to me, it's like there's levels, and that his level was so minute that it's like I don't view it as, yo, he has to get canceled. And I kind of equate it kind of to the AJ statements during the Black Lives Matter protest, right? A lot of like boxing fans really had issues with AJ's comments, including in our comment section. I've read them, right? But I don't think AJ's comments were his intent was to be racist. You get what I'm saying? And just like Paulie's intent, I don't believe Paulie's intent was to be racist. I think Paulie was just saying, hey, this is hypocritical that a black fighter could say A, B, C, D, E, F, G when white fighters can't do the same thing, you know? And it's kind of crazy because the argument that he was making, it kind of backfired and blew up in his face because he's like, yo, I don't see them, you know, firing him, but let a white guy say, yo, I can't lose to a black boy, he'll be fired in a heartbeat. Now he's saying like, I don't believe racial oppression exists. This is his opinion. It's not like he was saying like, you know, black people are the N-word or black people are coons or things of that nature. He just gave his honest opinion, right? Now, I disagree with that opinion, but you can't punish a man for giving an opinion. That's like me saying like, yo, nah, I'm not even gonna do it. But you know what I mean? Like some opinions are politically incorrect. But does that mean because you have a politically incorrect point of view that your livelihood should now be in question? I don't know if I'm for that. You know what I mean? To me, you have to like cross that line. And when you cross that line, it's like, all right, you went from, I don't know, say a person that has bigoted thoughts or opinions to occasionally says microaggressions to, you know, you're flat out racist. And Paulie's not a flat out racist, at least not to our knowledge. So I feel like, you know, Showtime should reconsider this termination of Paulie Malignaggi.
All right, Ned.
I didn't really watch. All I know is he said he was speaking on Devin Haney from the clip we just seen, but I don't really know what was said in the interview or what happened. But maybe, you know, Showtime did approach Paulie and was like, "What you said, we don't feel right with what you said, and you need to make an apology or retract that statement." And Paulie, it seems like Paulie did not.
Paulie refused. He refused to apologize.
So that's the reason why he got let go, because he's at odds. So I don't think he's canceled, but it's just you don't want to go in our direction. You don't want to follow suit.
What do you think actually got terminated means, bro?
He
got terminated. Like
yeah. So he didn't want to follow suit with the company. Get terminated. If I say something and my job's like, hey, you gotta retract that. And if I say no, I have freedom of speech. I want to express my right to speak, to feel how I feel. They have all right to terminate me because, you know, that's not representation of the company. I'm not mad at Showtime for terminating Paulie. Maybe Paulie is. I'm not mad at Paulie for what he said. It's just sensitive times we living in. People don't want to be their brand don't want to be associated with anything of race or color, things like that. So.
All right, man. So I'm gonna need the floor. I'm gonna do my best to break some stuff down. Typically, I stay away from these discussions because there's no way to win. there's always someone looking to be outraged. And so in a society where someone's looking for a reason to be upset, it's very difficult to say something and feel safe. Paulie Malignaggi was asked the question and he answered the question. I don't know Paulie Malignaggi's level of intellect. I don't know how educated he is. All I know is he's a boxer and he's a boxing commentator, and he answered a question. I have a huge issue with cancel culture, because for me, cancel culture prevents people from expressing themselves in ways that I feel like they need to in order for us to progress. And what I mean by that is this is a very teachable moment for Paulie Malignaggi, but it turns into him being fired for statements that he made, which to me will only make his views and opinions even worse, because he's not going to know why he was wrong, and he's not going to understand why the statement he made was insensitive or why the statement he made was incorrect. And so firing him does what? Do I believe Paulie Malignaggi is a racist? I don't think so. I have no reason to think that. In fact, I saw Paulie walking by. He was at the fight in Connecticut when I was at Andre Berto versus Victor Ortiz in Connecticut. Paulie was there. I saw Paulie. I didn't get a chance to go up to Paulie. I mean, respect to Paulie, but he was like very low on my list of people to greet and see who was there at the fight. So I didn't go up to him. I didn't see him. I didn't take a picture with him. But he was there and he just seemed like a cool guy. I didn't see him like only mingling with a certain type of person. He mingled with everyone. And so I do believe there comes a time in society where people will say something that's insensitive due to lack of knowledge. And it may be a comment. Like I hear people say this all the time. They refer to a certain type of police vehicle as a certain type of wagon. And I will say to them that that is a derogatory term. And they will say, well, what do you mean? No, everyone calls that police vehicle that. And I said, no, well, I actually look up the history of why they call that vehicle that. And you'll see that it's derogatory towards Irish people, right? And then once they learn, they say, oh man, I didn't know that. I won't say that again, right? There's a certain there's a word that's offensive to Jewish people. And it, you know, it involves like dealing. People say it all the time. Like, you're like a car dealer or someone who makes a deal with you, and it's like they tricked you into something and they manipulated you into something. And this word is derogatory, and people use it freely sometimes. And I heard people in important positions use this word, and I had to stop them and say, hey, I know you didn't mean it in that way, but you may want to look up the history of that word. That word is derogatory towards Jewish people. And they'll say, no, you know, I won't, like, I don't even want to hint to the word. I say the word, but trust me, it's a word, and it's about like manipulating someone into purchase someone or to make a deal. And so basically, I point out to them it's an offensive word, and then they look it up and they'll say, wow, I didn't know that. And I know they didn't know that because I know the person, and I know if the person knew that, they wouldn't have said it, right? But I tell people this now. Normally, a conversation that doesn't involve me is a conversation that doesn't involve me. But now, whenever I hear this stuff, I tell people, because I don't want them to say it in the wrong place and lose their job, right? Which is where the world's going. So do I think Paulie should have lost his job? No. When it comes to like Billy Joe Saunders hitting the bag, what he said, what he did, I feel like education is more powerful. When someone knows why what they said is wrong, they're less likely to repeat it again. Like the examples I gave you with the words that I heard people say. And I said, you do know, you do realize, you do know. And then they go, oh my God, I didn't know. Like, and now they know why. Their mind doesn't even want to say it again. Like me, when I found out those words were derogatory, I deleted out of my vocabulary. I don't use them. So that's one thing. But for Paulie Malignaggi, he said there's a double standard. He said that if a white fighter said that he would never lose to a black fighter, it would be a
boy. Remember,
black boy. Yeah. Well, there's history behind that, Paulie. Like for example, I don't think Paulie's aware of like the Tuskegee Airmen, and it was thought that black men weren't smart enough to fly planes, as well as white men, right? Was it factual? Was it true? No, but it was what was thought. It was once thought that white men and white people had bigger brains than black people, right? That's what people thought. They were just born smarter. They were just born better. They were just born to lead and do everything. There's also the story of the first starting five of black men to win a national championship from the University of Texas, El Paso. And you can see the movie. It's a Disney movie. It's Glory Road. So if you have Disney Plus, you should check out the Glory Road. But it's about how basically no one thought a starting five of black men could beat a starting five of white men. And ironically, one of the white players on that championship team from Kentucky was Pat Riley. And Pat Riley has gone on to lead a lot of young black men to NBA championships as a head coach. Pat Riley right now with the Miami Heat. But at the time, he was playing on the team that was supposed to prove that five black men couldn't be the starting five of five white men, right? So what Paulie Malignaggi is basically saying is, why is it racist to wear blackface, but it's okay for black people to wear whiteface, right? Well, here's an example. When black people weren't allowed to act on screen, white people would put charcoal on their face, red lipstick around their, like over their lips to like, you know, poke fun at the fact that black people have like big lips, right? And then they would act on screen representing black people in a derogatory fashion, in a fashion as if they were uneducated, they were, you know, incapable of thinking, they were these vile human beings. And so there's a history of that here, right? There's a history of that, of blackface being used to degrade black people. So if you go to a Halloween party in blackface, right, it's offensive because for years, that type of behavior was used to degrade black people. Now, give me the example. Look it up. You can look up the history of that being used to degrade white people. So just because one thing is offensive to one person doesn't automatically make it offensive to another person. There's a reason why it's offensive. So that's why you have to learn the reason why. The reason why you showing up in blackface is offensive is because for years, like my ancestors, great-great-great-grandparents, they were forced to endure people doing that to degrade them. And so now if you come see it, you can say, well, whatever, it doesn't. And for me, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. The only way it bothers me is if the person doing it decides whether or not I get a promotion, whether or not I get to get into a school, whether or not I get to advance in life. If the person doing this stuff has no control over my life, I could care less. But the problem with that type of stuff is it does spill into your everyday life. Stereotypes. Stereotypes impact how we do everything. As G was pointing out, he doesn't know what it's like to be a woman, right? Stereotypes, implicit bias, whether good or bad, are embedded in our head based on life experiences. So when you see a man carrying a box, you don't care. You see a woman carrying a box, and you're like, oh, let me help you with that. Why do you want to help the woman? Do you think she's not capable? No, it's not that you don't think she's not capable. You want to be polite. You were taught like to help women. You were taught to make sure that she's taken care of, right? You're not doing it for a disrespectful reason. But what if she wanted to prove she could carry that box on her own? and then you just went up there trying to offer her for help. It suggests something. It suggests maybe she's not capable of carrying that box on her own, right? It's her time to show she can. So the way you're fair about that is you say, when you see a man carrying a box, you say, you need help with that? Would you like help with that? And then you see a woman carrying a box, you say, would you like help with that? Now you're treating everybody the same. But if you wouldn't ask the man, would he need help with that? And you asked the woman if she needed help, even if your intention was good, you still treated her differently. Just simply because she was a woman.
Impact versus intent.
Exactly. So that's what I'm trying to say. Now, if your reaction to someone is based on a stereotype or whatever, then it's an implicit bias. Now, we can dive into all these. I don't want to spend all this time on this, but I do want to point out a few things to people, because sometimes, like, I feel like I see so many things in Anthony Joshua, for example, his comments. For one, I understand that he was just reading a speech, that they weren't even his words. It was just like, here, read this. And Anthony Joshua just read it. So in that same light, it's like, Paulie, I don't expect Joshua to be some philosopher or I hold him to the collegiate level standard of knowing what's going around him. He was there for a cause. They said, oh, there goes a powerful guy. Have him read this. And he read it. And then the world just blitzed him and then said he was racist. He said, support Black businesses. He didn't say never buy from white businesses ever again in your life. He never said that. He never said if your car's running out of gas, right, in the closest station to you is white owned, take the risk of finding a Black owned one and have your car break down. He never said that. He just said support Black businesses, meaning make a conscious effort to purchase from Black people as well. That's all he said. He never said, and you know what's so funny? They're saying he's racist. I see this dude wearing Hugo Boss all over his IG. This dude make me want to buy a Hugo Boss shirt. Is Hugo Boss a Black owned business?
No.
Come on, man. Like, use your brain sometimes, people. People just looking for reasons to be outraged. There's nothing wrong with that. I shop everywhere. I shop wherever. So now, if I'm going on a strip, I bought a few things, and there's this little Black-owned store. Let me stop in here and let me drop some money with them. What's wrong with that? He never says shop Black only. See, that's the word that's missing. Only. Support Black-owned businesses. Shop at Black-owned businesses. What's wrong with saying that?
You know, not to cut you off.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
On Twitter, like on the Boston Bros USA, like I went back and forth with like a bunch of people because a lot of our supporters was like, yo, this dude is racist, this and the third. After having my back and forth dialogue with everyone, they all were like, hey, you know what? I didn't see it that way. You know, and so it's easy to misunderstand a person's point of view. And this is where I'm even come to Paulie's defense. Paulie, even though the words, I wouldn't use those words because I understand what he was trying to say, but he had like poor choice of words to actually articulate himself. You could have those conversations about the double standard without, you know, going into all the other stuff that he was bringing up, right? So that's why it's like, to me, it's like, even with the AJ situation, if you just take like a 30-second clip, right, and you're not looking at it from its totality, looking at it from, you know, the situation at hand and the social and cultural climate that we're all dealing with right now, it's easy to be like, yeah, yo, AJ is racist. Not knowing, like, you're talking about a guy that got like over like 20 endorsements by like a bunch of white corporations. Like that doesn't really make sense. Like, you got to really think about what you're saying. And then people were like, oh, because I showed a clip of Martin Luther King saying pretty much the same thing. And then everybody was like, oh, you got that, you know, because they don't view Martin Luther King as a racist for saying that. He's saying, hey, if they want to not support us during this time, then we shouldn't support those companies. That's all it is. You know what I mean? And when you look at it from that paradigm, then you go like, all right, Joe, you know what? I misspoke, or I was wrong, or what have you. So that's why I'm not necessarily mad at people who are hating on AJ either. You know what I mean? Because it's like, where their consciousness coming from? Like, you know what I mean? Like, are they studying this stuff? Are they aware of what's going on? Like, do they even have black friends? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're looking at it from outside looking in, you may be like ignoring a lot of nuanced things in that space where you go like, oh, wow, I didn't even see it like that. Or, you know what, I wasn't even aware that this was going on. You know what I mean? And then you go like, hey, you know what? This is a time to show more empathy. And I feel like even us as, well, I'm not going to say us, but people who are about part of that woke culture, right? Where it's like, oh, somebody said something racist, shut them down. Oh, somebody said something homophobic, shut it down. Somebody said something sexist, shut it down. I go like, how about you be more empathetic and go, let's educate that person. You know what I mean? Truly, if we want society to be a better place, education is key. If we're not providing education, then what's going to happen is people like Paulie will go into their silos and be like, yo, they fired me for no reason. And then he has his own support. And then they're like, yeah, this is all BS. Da, da, da. And then now there's no like cross-cultural dialogue. You know what I mean? And further understanding on how to be allies, I guess, if that's the correct word. You know what I mean? And so that's what we need. More conversations, more dialogue, more understanding, as opposed to, oh, you said something stupid, you said something foolish, you said something problematic.
Hey, you don't deserve to live. You don't deserve to eat. You don't deserve to breathe. You don't deserve to do anything. It's just like crazy. And so just diving back into like the whole AJ Paulie thing, to me, like with AJ, the statements that he made and people are saying he's racist, to my knowledge, he didn't lose any endorsements because like the people making those decisions understand what he was trying to say. So saying support black owned doesn't mean you don't anti-white. And I think the problem with a lot of the perception is anytime someone says something in support of black, it's perceived as anti-white. And I think that in itself is what needs to change. You can support black and white. You can love black and white. Like you can do that. And so what Paulie's comments, to me, what they showed was lack of education, and lack of sensitivity, but it doesn't show me that he's racist. Like, and I don't think he should have been fired for it. There are so many things about the construction of the United States of America that led to systemic issues. And I think that's what people are seeing rear its ugly head at this particular point in time. And you have, not just based on race, but based on a lot of things. Like women couldn't vote in this country at one point, right? You look at like Susan B. Anthony and the suffrage movement, right? And then women getting their right to vote. The LGBTQ community not being able to get married and then finally being able to get married. These are all experiences you wouldn't know unless you were a part of that group. If you were someone who can vote, how would you know what it feels like to be denied that right? Mm-hmm. If you were someone who can get married to anyone you want because you fall within the privileged group that's allowed to do that, and then basically in this case scenario, it would just be you're a straight couple, right? You go get married, no problem. But when you want to marry the person you love and they tell you can't, that's when you start to realize the injustice. There are so many injustices that hit everyone differently based on their social identity. And when you're not a part of that social identity, you tend to overlook it, even defend. And I'll give you an example. I went to undergrad with G. I was in student government, and I was on the Ways and Means Committee. Now, the Ways and Means Committee, we would have to approve budgets. Yeah. So people would send a packet requesting money for their student-ran organization. We would decide whether we give it to them, how much we give it, how much to give to them, everything. And so I was in a room, a very diverse room. You want to talk about diversity? That room was diverse, and we looked at everything. We looked at everything from the University Programming Council that throws concerts to the debate team. We looked at everyone's, to the Mac users. We looked at everyone's budget, and we would tear those budgets down, right? And so I was at a BSU event, And BSU is the Black Student Union, and Black Student Union would have their parties and everything, and there were 3 white students there, and they were dancing, and you know, their rhythm wasn't on par with everyone else that was in that room. The majority of the people in the room were, you know, Black and, you know, Hispanic and Haitian, everything. It just fall into that category. But there were these 3 white students who were the minority in that room, and they were dancing, and people were looking at them, and people were laughing, and people were doing certain things, right? And I saw those 3 students like feel uncomfortable, and they were like, okay, they were ready to leave. And so I stopped them, and I said, I'm gonna show you guys the dance, come on. Like, and I started like talking to them, and I wanted them to feel welcome. I showed them like some stuff, and they started to get better with the dancing, and they started having fun. And then I pulled one of my friends who's a part of the BSU, and I said, this can't happen. I said, this can't happen. Like, they came here and they got singled out, and they were made to feel a certain way. In that moment, their social identity, right, was the reason they were treated differently. And so, like I pointed out, if this was something different, if this was the tango, right, and me and 2 other Black people went in and we were treated the same way, we wouldn't feel comfortable with that. We would feel some kind of way about that, right? So we had to make sure that they feel welcome, because their student fees help pay for this party as well, right? So there needs to be, instead of laughing at, you know, there's that saying, like, you invited them to the party, but you didn't allow them to dance, right? Instead of laughing, instead of highlighting, you know, how offbeat they are, why not try to teach them how to catch the beat, right?
No, especially seeing that we attended a predominantly white institution. Like,
Exactly.
we are the minorities in those spaces. So what are we looking like when we're the majority within that white institution that we now discriminate? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense, because we understand how it feels. Like, when we're in class, we're like, damn, this is crazy. I'm like the only one. I'm the only Black man in my class right now. You know, and then imagine people are like challenging my intellect or questioning my point of view. And then when I meet up with BSU or with any other Black student organization, I start doing the same thing to white kids.
That's a beautiful transition, because part of your social identity is to not be as educated, is to not be this, is to be a certain way, right? Because you're a Black man in a college classroom. Exactly. And your social identity in that class is that you're not going to perform as well, or the stereotype is you're not going to perform as well, this and that. And that's my whole point. You can perpetuate, or you can do your best to not only dispel, but to make sure that everyone else around you feels comfortable. Like, I don't know if you recall, G, you remember that intergroup dialogue class that we had?
That class was crazy.
Oh my God. But it was the coolest, because, like, listen, I won't even get into what was said, but it was like
diverse.
Yes.
It was fun.
It was diverse, and we had, like, you had a good number of every demographic in that class.
Yeah. Like, Black, Hispanic, Latinx, Indigenous, white. We had everybody. And so in this class, it's just honest dialogue. Like,
yes, 100% honest.
Problematic, and it's like, instead of being like angry at the person, you're having a conversation about their point of view. So I feel like actually more universities should adopt that class, because my university, we don't do that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, we had even diverse professors. We had two professors. We had a white woman, I can't remember her name, and we had Taj, a Black man. Yeah. And like, they would conduct like the discussion. But I'll give you some examples. Like, I don't want to get, it's just like, it was insane. I'll try to give you some of the easiest. Like, this class was raw because it was an education class, and most of the people in the class, they were going to go on to be teachers. Like, we want to go on to be teachers, but most of the people in the class were going to go on to be teachers. So one assignment was, they took a giant white sheet of paper, hung it up on a wall, and they wrote like Black, white, Hispanic, all these races, and they put them on the wall, and they said, write down stereotypes associated with them. Right? it was just crazy, like some of the stuff that people wrote, and then we would talk about it. Like you didn't have to say what you wrote, but I remember for black people, one of the things I saw was like white teeth. Someone wrote white teeth, and I was like, who the heck would write white teeth? Like, and so just as something simple as that, like some of the funniest things, man. Like that class was so funny. But at the end of the class, like they told you to write like your name in the center of a piece of paper and like pass it around the class, and then people like write you like a message. Mm-hmm. I still have that paper. So many people in that class was like, you changed, like you just being yourself and who you are in this class, you showed me so much and changed my views on so many things. And it was just like, what's happening to it? Like G and myself though, we had to be open to allowing people to speak freely. Because like that was one thing that about like G and myself that I think made the class go smoothly was we laughed at ignorance. We weren't like outraged by it. Like we weren't like, oh my God, like how could you say this? We would laugh.
I got remember undergrad, we was on the bus and this crazy white woman called us the N-word. And then we were like, yo, whatever, because you know, this lady's like insane, actually insane. Everybody on the bus, I'm so offended. You stop that. You don't say that. And they're like, we're so sorry, guys. Please. And I'm like, yo, it's cool, yo. Like, yo, we're not bugged out by this, yo. You know what I mean? Like,
so, G, you don't remember when you crossed and we were looking for directions to the pool hall?
Right in front of the
yeah. And so we asked this guy, right? Yeah. And this guy was like, gave us perfect directions. He was like, you go upstairs, right? Then you take a right, and then it's gonna be on the left. We was like, he was like, you N-bombs have a good time.
Yeah, I was like, hold on.
I was just like, yo.
It was like, oh. But yo, we laughed it off. It's like, again, it's like when you look at our friend group, like all of us today are all successful, you know. So it's like, yeah, you're like a homeless guy. Well, you know what I mean?
But it was crazy because it was like he was so nice. Like, yo, he just threw that in there. Like, yo.
Man, I'm not joking, bro. Like he gave us accurate instructions and everything.
He gave us 100% perfect instructions, everything. He just slipped that in there. Like
N words. Like what?
Yo, you don't remember when we were at the rally and they were like, this annoyed me because like, yo, I'm telling you, man, I got like 10 shades darker that day. We were at the rally and like, yo, I got pictures. Like, y'all think I'm joking. I might put them up. I got like 10 shades darker, right? So we're at the rally and they gave a bullhorn to this white guy, right? And he goes like, I marched with Martin Luther King, and everybody was going crazy. He was like, I marched with Malcolm X, and everybody went crazy. And he was like, I marched with the brothers, and that's when they were like, get that
Oh man.
Truthfully, man, I think what we need more inclusion. We need more education. We need more understanding as to why something is offensive, as to why you shouldn't say something, as to why you should care about what or how something you're doing impacts other people. And I think we get a better response. When the initial reaction is just to cancel, to fire, I don't think it helps anything. In fact, I think it creates more resentment, and it only makes a person double down on negative views. And I'm not saying that there aren't fireable offenses. Like, had Paulie dropped the N-bomb or did something else, then get rid of him. But that's not what he did. If he would have used one of the derogatory terms that any protected group or any that offended anyone's social identity to the point where we all know, like, that was blatant and there's no excuse for that, get rid of him. But I don't think, like, even like G pointed out, he said like a black boy, right? I don't even think he understands like the symbolism in using that exact word. Like, I don't think he's familiar with that. And that's my point. And I think sometimes, man, you just got to stop and then educate someone, even in the moment. You do know, like I said in the beginning of this, you do know that word is, you do know. And then you give them the opportunity to say, no, I didn't know. Like, I'm sorry. Like, for me, if you offend someone and you didn't mean to, just say sorry. I've done it hundreds of times. Like, I'm not perfect. I've offended someone, and immediately sincere apology goes a long way. People understand. I have a last point, and then we can. And then I'm done. I know this is probably going for a long time, but so I'm at my job, and a file has someone's dead name, right? So if you're not familiar, this person was a trans woman. The dead name is the former name, the old name that is no longer being used, right? And this folder contained the person's dead name, and I said the dead name, and the person corrected me, said that's not my name, this is my name. What does it cost me to say I apologize, I'm going to change this, and call that person the name that they asked me to call them? It cost me nothing. I could double down and be a jerk and try to force my political views on someone. What's that going to get me? Nothing. And how's it going to make that person feel? For me, it was nothing. It was just, I'm going to correct this. I apologize. I'm going to refer to you by your name that you told me to refer to you as. Simple. Like, that's.
And what G.I. Joe used to say? And knowing is half the battle.
All right, so hold on, wait. Before we go, people, listen. If you're looking for a reason to be offended or whatever, like that's just going to be the way it is. We typically don't even touch that stuff because, like,
this is the reason why we don't. Is because, and I get it, like, we're 4 black men, so people are expecting us to just focus on race. But yo, this is a boxing channel. We're focusing on the sport. You know, now there may come times where race is a factor, like this discussion, but again, our primary focus is boxing, not, like racial issues in the United States or globally. So yeah, so if you notice, like, hey, we're staying away from certain topics, it's because it doesn't really matter at this point of the discussion. Now, when it does matter, we will speak up. But as of like right now, you know what I mean? Like, for example, with the Paulie situation, we're speaking up. The AJ situation, we're speaking up. But other times, if it has no relevance to the fight, to a fight or any upcoming fights, like, maybe this isn't the channel for you, And so if you're rocking with us, rock with us. If you're not, you're not. But best believe this, we are all socially aware brothers, you know what I mean? And we all have points of view. Most of the time we agree, but there's times where we differ on these type of topics. And so this isn't the platform to have those type of dialogues. Maybe hit us up individually and have those conversations. But for this show, our primary objective is to discuss boxing.
All right, well, you taking us home too, bro.
Oh, I thought TBE was, but it doesn't matter. Hey,
that's gonna take us home. Take us home, Ned. Take us home, Ned.
Go ahead, Ned, yo. Drop some gems. Go ahead, bro.
All right, y'all. This was a meaningful and dope.
Two seconds.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Yo, please. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all our streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud,
Google Play, all that good stuff.
Yo, we love y'all. It's the Boxing Bros. Peace.
All right, Ned, you rebounded.
I wanna see what's on your mind. You wanna see what's on my mind. Pimpin' all the time. I wanna know if you wanna be mine. You wanna know if you can be mine. Pimpin' all the time. I wanna see what